Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Media Pulse, the show where we help you make sense of Thai politics.
It's been another week full of elements of political drama and flip-flopping, which is something common in Thai politics.
It's actually good for us. I mean, we've got things to talk about.
That's why we have been saying that Thai politics is never dull.
Yes, exactly. And this morning, we will begin the show with some headlines about the Thai Prime Minister, Kun Paetongtarn. She was at the ASEAN Summit this week in Laos. And apart from the serious talks about cultural cooperation, trade, well-being of the people, we have this headline. Let's look at this one. So, ASEAN compliments Paetongtarn's Thai fabric outfit. And Justin Trudeau impressed with Thailand's equal marriage law.
Wow.
It was later revealed that that outfit she was wearing actually belonged to her mother, Kun Patchimanon, and her mother wore it during the time when her father, Thaksin Shinawatra, was Prime Minister. Whether or not that has anything to do with the ASEAN Summit, I'll let you decide. I mean, so I'm going to bring your attention to this headline. ASEAN amazed at PM Inc, who is the youngest and the only female leader at the summit.
Wow.
Still holding her iPad there in the picture. And she also met with the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and other delegates from China, Korea, Japan as well. So yeah, so far so good.
So she should be happy that once in at least the past 2 weeks that she has been spared the ridicule over her having to stick to scripts, having to read from iPad while
She still got
delivering
her iPad though.
her speeches. Of course, she has come out in strong defense of her need to consult the iPad and her scripts
Yep.
when she meet with the foreign dignitaries. She said every other leaders also do the same, so why pick on me?
Yeah, that's true. But we've been seeing more favorable headlines about the Prime Minister at the moment.
No, it's quite interesting because judging from the headlines, including what you just outlined a minute ago, I think it's quite clear that there are certain mainstream media outlets that have been bending over backward to try to give her a favorable coverage. And it's now a common knowledge within the media circles that the Paetongtarn government has somehow been able to develop what is known as a chummy relationship with certain media outlets. So don't be surprised if you see more headlines like this in the future in some of the mainstream media.
Yeah, so far so good, but here's the issue about Myanmar. Because remember earlier, before she went to the ASEAN Summit, she actually said at an event, she said something about Myanmar. So this is an exact quote. She said, ASEAN must play an important role in bringing peace back to Myanmar as soon as possible. Of course, this is a bit too early to say or judge whether or not she can deliver on the issue, because back in Thailand, there's a lot of political drama and problems to solve.
It's quite obvious that the Paetongtarn government would want to highlight the issue of Myanmar as one of the priorities in her policy.
Yeah.
And as you know that later this year, in mid-December, Thailand will be hosting this so-called Troika meeting. It's a meeting of the present chair of ASEAN, the immediate previous chair and the future chair, including other ASEAN countries, with interest in resolving the crisis in Myanmar to get together in Bangkok in a meeting hosted by Thailand. So that will signal another important role that Thailand would want to be seen as playing in trying to find a way to end the crisis in Myanmar. Right?
It is interesting though, because usually if we talk about ASEAN, they tend to not touch on interference or internal issues of the member countries.
Yeah.
But this time
around, you cannot treat what happens in Myanmar as the purely domestic issue of the country, because the fallout from the crisis has affected especially Thailand a lot.
Exactly.
You have thousands of displaced persons swarming on in the border areas, right?
Yeah, that's true. So that remains to be seen. But anyway, Paetongtarn still has a lot of political drama to handle back at home. And that drama, we're going to talk about the great betrayal and reconciliation.
All right, okay. Now we're talking about an unexpected reconciliation between two formerly estranged political heavyweights.
Yeah.
One is Kun Thaksin Shinawatra, a former prime minister, and the other is Kun Newin Chidchob, the de facto boss of Pheu Thai, which is the second biggest partner of the Pheu Thai-led coalition government. And the media are left scrambling to try to read the political meaning of this sudden, unexpected rapprochement between these two heavyweights, right? Because until they break up in 2008, we are looking back at history, a short history of these between these two persons. But until they break up in 2008, Newin was one of Thaksin's most trusted political lieutenants. And Thaksin was at the time already in self-exile after being ousted in the coup d'etat 2 years earlier, right?
Yeah.
But in what was back then seen as a major twist, Newin turned his back on Thaksin and the party that Thaksin was supporting to form a government.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about when Newin led a group of MP to defect from the party, they formed a new party, right, which is now Pheu Thai.
Yeah.
And then they went on and support the Democrats to support a new prime minister who's a rival of Mr. Thaksin then. So we're talking about Kun Apisit. Right?
Yeah. And the media back then saw the event as the country's biggest political betrayal, which was made famous by the phrase, "It's over, boss."
มันจบแล้วครับนาย
No, the phrase was supposed to have been uttered by Kun Newin to Kun Thaksin to demonstrate his decision to switch camps. And since then, the two have become sworn enemies.
You know, the headlines these days still talk about that phrase, but they kind of rephrased it a bit. Back then, he said it's over, boss. This time, he says it was over a long time ago, signaling that, you know, they're going to just let bygones be bygones.
Right.
It's over. And then Thaksin shifted, met Newin, and this is referring to the puzzle of the agreement at the Chan Song La mansion.
That's right. Now, as the old political adage goes, in politics there are no permanent friends or permanent foes, right? Yeah. And this is another proof of that adage, right? So Thaksin and Newin patched up their differences over a recent dinner with the help of Pheu Thai leader Kun Anutin Chanvirakul serving as a mediator. So they met over dinner. The question is, what is the political implication of Thaksin and Newin shaking hands once again? I mean, the Thai media see the whole affair as another act of political expediency. Of course, we know that Thaksin is the de facto leader of Pheu Thai, the core of the coalition. Newin, meanwhile, is the kingmaker of Pheu Thai, the second biggest party in the coalition, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the two parties may see each other as rivals in elections, during elections. But they have one common enemy, and that is the issue. Their common enemy is the People's Party, the reincarnation of the Move Forward Party that was resolved by the Constitutional Court in August.
Yeah.
The People's Party may have been weakened, but of course it's still being considered a force to be reckoned with in the upcoming election. So that's the logic behind the reconciliation between Thaksin and Newin, because the two parties now see more advantages in banding together rather than going it alone in the next elections.
Well, we do have this headline from Thairat, and it uses the phrase, they are no longer angry at each other. หายโกรธแล้ว Is it true? I don't know. I mean,
talking about banding together to fight the next election as allies, right? It's just one theory. And there's another school of thought about the logic behind the sudden reconciliation, right? Because some media have speculated that the reconciliation between Thaksin and Newin is part of the attempts by the leadership of the two parties to strike a compromise over the issue of constitutional amendment. Don't forget that amending the current constitution, which is seen as a legacy of the military coup d'etat, right, has been Pheu Thai's party priority But the more conservative Prompan Thai party appears to be lukewarm about the idea. And that's why the two parties don't very much see eye to eye on this specific issue.
Yeah, but they're together for now.
But there's a more far-fetched theory about the reconciliation. Some media have speculated that the reconciliation could be another step toward what they believe to be a power-sharing arrangement.
Is it signaling that way?
So what kind of power sharing arrangement is it?
The theory is that they could have Anutin sharing half term with Pheu Thong Than in a new deal, which is a development of the former deal that brings Thaksin back to Thailand.
That's right. According to the deal, Pheu Thong Than would serve only half of the term, right, and leave the rest to Anutin to take over.
Yeah.
But this may sound very far-fetched.
Weird, yeah.
But it did make headlines in many mainstream media.
Yes,
outlets.
we do have that headline from Now. Look at this one. So basically talks about Anutin says that, he admits that he helped Newin to go in and met Thaksin, but he confirms that there's no such thing as time-sharing speculation, time-sharing Prime Minister.
No, it's interesting to note that on Tuesday last week, when journalists first confronted Anutin with the question about the reported meeting between Newin and Thaksin, you know what he said? He said, nonsense. It was simply dismissing the question as nonsense. But a day later, he did confirm that there was such a meeting. But what was raised in the meeting between Newin and Thaksin was something that he wouldn't want to discuss. He said they talk about private issues.
Well, Thaksin, it's interesting that since his daughter has taken office, he has been very quiet. He's keeping a very low profile, staying out of the media spotlight.
Has been deliberate in keeping a low profile. So he's nowhere to be seen to be asked whether or not he did meet Newin and whose initiative was it that the meeting was held.
Yeah, true. So, but what is certain at this stage is that Pheu Thai and Prompan Thai are more than committed to being friends for now.
For now. We need to say for now because in Thai politics there's no such thing as certainty. You are friends today, you can turn foes tomorrow.
True. And you know what, all the political dramas in Thailand seems to revolve around Pheu Thai and the characters that are associated with Pheu Thai, because this morning we have another political drama to talk about, and this is also a big plot twist, I'm going to say. So we're talking about two characters here, former Red Shirts Jatuporn Prompan and Nattawut Saikua. They were good friends, love each other.
Yeah. No, in fact, Jatuporn and Nattawut were once known as comrades in arms, right? And they were known as the most celebrated leaders of the Russian movement. Of course, you still remember this political movement that was set up to support Thaksin, who was ousted in the coup d'etat in 2006, right? And the movement's months-long street protests against the opposite government in 2010 plunged the country into a major crisis before it was crushed in a violent crackdown. And back then, not only were Jatuporn and Nattawut among the most important architects of the street protests, they were also their most fiery speakers. And at times, they did not shy away from inciting protesters to resort to violence to pressure Abhisit to resign as Prime Minister.
Yes, remember this speech here where he says, if you seize power, we will burn down the whole country. Go out and burn. I'll take the responsibility. That he was inciting the crowd.
That's right.
And they actually went out and burned things.
Yeah, a lot of government installations were set on fire, and largely because of at his urging.
Including a TV station. Because I was working, Anyway.
And after this crisis ended, Jatuporn and Nattawut still continued to serve as faithful lieutenants of former Prime Minister Thaksin until something unexpected happened.
Yes, so something unexpected we're referring to when Thaksin cozied up with the political parties that was seen as the legacy of the military dictatorship that was held responsible for suppressing the red shirts. So that was the deal, another deal. There's so many political deals.
Because last year, Thaksin finally found his own way to get back to Thailand to end his self-exile, right?
Yes.
And that means he was ready to cut loose the red shirt movement,
And a
which
lot
he
of-
supported and financed.
Yeah, a lot of red shirt leaders or supporters saw this as a backstabbing move, and they turned against him.
They saw this as an act that is unforgivable. It's a betrayal by Thaksin. And among those who suddenly turned into critics against Thaksin was none other than Jatuporn Prompan, the once faithful servant of Thaksin's, right?
Yeah, well, in dozens of TV interviews, Jatuporn angrily accused Thaksin of exploiting the red shirts movement only for his own interest, right? And Jatuporn also predicted a quick demise of the government led by Thaksin's daughter, Pheu Thai.
Now, in fact, Kun Jatuporn has become one of the most popular figures on TV talk shows on politics, on political issues now.
Exactly, and he's threatening to bring back the street protest against this government.
That's right. And 2 weeks ago, Jatuporn threatened to do what he thinks he is very good at. That is to launch another round of street protests against the Pheu Thai government when the right time comes. And interestingly, his threat coincided with a similar one from Sonthi Limthongkul. Remember?
Yeah.
Sonthi, a leader of the People's Alliance for Democracy, better known as the Yellow Shirt,
Yes.
whose months-long street protest led to the coup against the Thaksin government in 2006, right?
This is going to be very interesting because they used to be opposed to each other, the reds and the yellow. Now the reds and the yellow are saying the same thing. That's why they're bringing in Nattawut Saikua.
That's right. They believe that Nattawut Saikua is one of the most effective counter weapons against Jatuporn Prompan or any other person that will be marching on the streets against her government. So Pheu Thai this week appointed Nattawut Saikua as one of her advisors.
Yeah, so it's now Jatuporn versus Nattawut, right?
But the problem is that Nattawut just last year came out very strongly against Pheu Thai party, incorporating parties that were legacy of the military dictatorship in the coalition government.
Yes, yes.
Nattawut announced that he was washing his hands of politics and that he would not take up any political offices.
Yeah, but he there's a change of mind now.
But so the Thai media have a heyday hammering Nattawut for being another political flip-flopper.
Yeah, we do have this headline. We're going to look at the one about Nattawut. He admits going back on his words by accepting the PM's advisor post. He also reveals that he would welcome Thaksin's return as he believes that Thaksin can make a lot of contributions. This is from the Standard.
And Nattawut, of course, has been ridiculed quite a lot in the social media for his flip-flopping.
Yeah.
That's no surprise then.
Yeah, and he says is a reflection of what he calls Thai political reality.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see how this will work out.
Yeah, and Pheu Thai actually said something about this as well. She actually said that Nattawut is a knowledgeable and experienced politician who can help with her work. Experience in what area? We're not sure.
And she said he is a very experienced politician and has proven himself to be very good at management. So we still have to find out what kind of role he'll be playing anyway. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll cap this week's Media Pulse with the legal case filed with the Constitutional Court against former Prime Minister Thaksin, Shinawatra and Pheu Thai party. Another case with the Constitutional Court.
Yeah, remember, so we have Kun Thirayut Suwangesorn, who is the same lawyer who lodged the petition that eventually led to the dissolution of the Move Forward Party. On this ground, this is actually the same ground. So He's accusing Thaksin and Pheu Thai of conspiring to undermine Thailand's democratic system with the king as the head of state.
I'm sure you must be very familiar with this phrase.
Exactly. It's been
acting
repeated so many
That
times.
would be seen as harming or undermining democratic system with the king as head of state. And on this on the same ground, I mean the Mufat party was dissolved last August.
Exactly.
In connection with its attempt to have the less majestic law amended, right?
So there are a few accusations, but we're talking about 4. So the first one is that Kun Thirayut accuses Thaksin of using the Pheu Thai party as a tool to manipulate the rules and regulations to spare him from physically serving his jail term. As we all know, Kun Thaksin never spent a day in prison. He got back to Thailand in August, and then he was checked in to the Police General Hospital. So he served his sentence there instead of going behind bars. And then he was released from the hospital.
Another accusation is that Thaksin conspired with former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen of working in cahoots to conclude an agreement on natural gas and marine resources sharing in overlapping maritime areas that would benefit Cambodia. And this is a very, very strong
Very strong accusations, but we can't deny the fact that the 2 former leaders are very close friends. And then there's another accusation. This one talks about how Thaksin extends his influence over the formation of the Pheu Thai-led government, which then appointed his daughter Pathongthan as Thailand's prime minister.
And of course, you remember how Thaksin delivered his so-called vision for Thailand in a forum organized by a major media company in August, right? And what he said back then is supposed to have been transformed into a policy direction for the Pheu Thai party. And Kun Thirayut, who filed the charge against Thaksin and Pheu Thai party, believed that that was an act of Thaksin that would constitute exerting undue influence over the party, which is against the law. So he see this as a breach of the legal provision that should land Thaksin in trouble.
But it depends on whether or not the court will take up the issues.
So that's the worst case scenario. Provided that the court admits the charges for consideration, then if that's the case, then the Pheu Thai party face the possibility of being dissolved.
Depends on the evidence as well, what Kun Thirayut is bringing.
That's a big question, whether or not, beside the charges listed in the thousands of pages of documents submitted to the court, I mean, the big question is whether Kun Thirayut have any evidences to substantiate the charges against Thaksin and Pheu Thai party.
With or without evidence, those in the Pheu Thai party themselves immediately dismiss all the charges, like the allegations, insisting that Pheu Thai party has never acted at Thaksin's beck and call or instructions.
Oh, great.
Well.
Okay, let's see, because this certainly going to be a big issue for the media for weeks to come. How these things will play out.
It's going to keep us busy.
Okay.
So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again next Saturday morning. So we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.